Welcome back, everybody. The first series of the night was definitely very chogali, and we'll see if the second series follows suits. What are your thoughts? You think we're going to see more?
I hope not. I think there is a slight chance, because after hearing the interview actually from Rich that they had in store of the Chogal pick, maybe other teams has also been preparing for this pick. Who knows? Maybe L5 or Tempest may bring it out tonight.
Yeah, definitely a decent chance of that, right? So, it seems like the meta has shifted through the weekdays on the off days for HGC. So people are looking to maybe find those picks, make it work, because Ariel is now a top tier support. They need more heroes that you can pair with her. The Malfurion moving down, Ariel moves up. You can't always get the Vala or the Gul'dan, which Gul'dan has been almost not used at all this tournament. So it's been mostly the Vala. So if you have that, in the draft, you want to have another hero that could pair with it, Cho or Gall, both of them. You know, they're both pretty good at that.
Will be even more when Luther is nerfed in the coming patch with the 26.1 and next weekend. So I think Ariel will be the top support. Maybe we'll even see Ariel banned in the first bans. I think that's very likely to. The support war, because from all the Korean teams, has been really real compared to all the other regions too. But before, we're going to take a look at L5.
안녕하세요. 저는 L5 팀에서 메인 딜러를 맡고 있는 SGSC입니다.
L5에 새로 합류하게 된 SD 순둥이라고 합니다.
탱커 포지션에 있던 노블레스 대신 훌리건 선수가 왔고, 서브 딜러 포지션인 나초진 선수 대신 순둥이 선수가 왔어요.
제가 사실 히어로즈를 하기 전에 스타투 프로게이머였어요. 그래서 L5랑 친하게 지냈었고, 그러다 보니까 자연스럽게 빈자리에 제가 생각나게 돼서 들어가게 된 것 같습니다.
순둥이 형이 약간 픽밴을 잘해줘요. 그래서 픽밴은 문제가 없는데 오더 측에서 약간 저희가 모자란 게 있어서 그 부분을 좀 보완해야 될 것 같아요. 일단 연습에서는 최대한 많은 픽을 하려고 노력하고 있고, 그 전보다는 다양한 픽을 많이 할 것 같아요. 원래 목표가 세계대회는 다 나가자였어서 세계대회에 나가서도 상위권에 머물고 싶어요, 여기서.
좀 경각심이 생겨서 확실히 파이팅이 좀 더 있고 연습을 훨씬 열심히 해요. 저희 입장에서는 잠재력을 끌어내는 게 목표예요.
저희가 느낌상으로는 좀 약해진 편이긴 해요. 근데 저희도 엠블랙 말고는 다 만만하다고 생각하거든요.
제가 블랙이면 인정하겠습니다. 다른 팀은 거기서 거기에요.
저희 팀이 모두 다 약해졌다고 평가받고 있어서 그 평가를 안 받으려고 다 열심히 노력하고 있어요. 좋게 봐주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
좀 당부드리고 싶은 게 훌리건 선수가 정말 부담을 많이 갖고 있어요. 너무 잘하는 선수의 뒤에 들어와서 좀 자신감을 찾을 수 있도록 응원 많이 해주셨으면 좋겠고, 저도 사실 부담이 많이 돼요. 조금만 지켜봐 주시면 저희가 더 열심히 해서 좋은 모습 보여드릴 수 있도록 노력하겠습니다.
Oh my god, G-Clep, I just had an epiphany. I had always known that SDE looked a little bit familiar to me, but I didn't know that he was an ex-StarCraft 2 player. If I had known his old ID, I would have been able to tell you.
Yep.
I know one person in the chat will remember this player, at least from the StarCraft 2 days, the old GSL days. That player is the former TSL Guinea Pig. I've cast this player in StarCraft 2 and now in Heroes of the Storm without knowing, because he changed his ID, changed his identity, that this guy was a top tier and early StarCraft 2 pro gamer. Did not know that. So yeah, he fits into this team pretty nicely. Now here with SC, Noblesse, the ex-StarCraft 2 player, out of the team, of course, with this new roster, but super hyped to see that SDE has, I have more history with this guy than I even knew. But SDE, I think, one of the best DPSs in Korea, and just kind of quietly behind players like Nachojin, SC, Sake, Reset, but I think he fits the roster really well, and I think he will do good things with this team.
That's right. With the roster change, with losing Noblesse, who was one of the best tank, if not the best tank in the world, who was also in charge of drafting and shot calling for the team. Now it's kind of split between Hooligan and SDE, who's doing tank and also drafting shot calling for the team. That's how impactful Noblesse was. But without Noblesse on this team, let's see how well they have adjusted and to see the power of new L5 coming up in Korea.
Yeah, this is going to be a big test for them against their opponents who look to be really leveled up. More people are saying they're scared of Tempest. They're saying they are scared of L5. When you hear the team interviews, you know, what is everyone expecting to see? What is the expectations going into this season. You were saying, watch out for Tempest, watch out for Black, Rich is back. But no one really feels as scared of L5. I think the main reason is because Hooligan and SDE don't demand the same respect as Noblesse and Nacho Jin did on the previous roster. But this team, Tempest, they come back with a vengeance. H82 really showing up to play. Rich even saying he was studying his stream. It's a strong team with this new roster for sure.
That's how much respect. That's a lot of respect, actually, for H82. And as we said multiple times, H82 is always on top 5 Lingli Assassin sub-tank role in Korea right now. And moving into Tempest, we've already seen some actions coming in. H82, very strong front line. Of course, Honkono coming in with Genji lots of times. And Sign, of course, the god Anubarak and lots of tank in the front line. I think this team right now is back into form with Honkono coming back into the team. Can be completed. Maybe they can even contest. From what we've seen from MVP Black so far, they're not as completed as Tempest is right now.
Well, H82 showing some good Zeratul. The Dahaka play was solid overall. And remember, the stylistic way that Honkono has been playing the Grey main with the Wizened Duelist is something to watch out for. So it's really cool they have this flexibility of Honkono, who used to be a main tank player. He played DPS for Young Boss back in the day, but he's flexing into the DPS role very quickly. He's doing very well so early on into the team, so that's pretty promising. But I have to ask you before we go into this any further, who do you favor in this best of 5?
Without any draft, I think Tempest had already adapted and kind of adjusted to near 90% teamwork, and we've seen nothing from L5. So knowing nothing about L5's new roster, I think Tempest has an upper hand right now.
I think that's a really good answer, because I was going to say I couldn't tell you myself. I have to wait until we see SDE's performance on L5. We'll see the synergy between these players. We just don't know where that is right now. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to figure this one out. We're going to find out what map we're headed to, though, for game number 1. And our map bans going to this best of 5 will be Dragonshire for game number 1 with StarCraft Battlegrounds 1-for-1 removed.
Yes, Dragonshire chosen by Tempest. So first pick, first ban will go to L5. Let's see if we see other. And we already heard H82 has been playing on Malthael. So let's see if it makes an appearance again in Dragonshire.
I think there's a high chance that we'll see it at least banned. It was second banned on the map earlier in our first best of 5. So really strong solo laner, and that's the extra value. He does well in team fights no matter which way you look at it. It's like a permanent Poison Nova from Zool or something like that, where he gets armor. It's just really good, especially against multiple tanks, which is quite common. So the solo lane, if you have such a one solo lane, then you can focus more on the 4-man rotation, which is what we saw on BOE. So for L5, they will have first pick. This is Tempest map choice. We're going to get a glimpse into how L5 is drafting, since we haven't seen them since the mid-season brawl.
That's right, and Tempest, Sign also pulled out his Diva card once last weekend. So there are lots of things that L5 has already seen from Tempest's side, but in terms of what they have not played, L5 has the advantage of holding in their secrets inside, because they have not played in the first weekend. There's already a ban.
First ban.
This is what we expected from the beginning of today. I was actually quite surprised that Blossom did not really highly prioritize Malthael banning from the beginning of the game.
So in the mid-season brawl, the thing that we saw by far the most from L5 in playoffs was the Vala Trinity with Auriel. Valario, Tassadar was the way they prioritized it. So wouldn't be surprised if they pick up the Auriel first with the Malfuria nerfs you talked about earlier. I think there's a high chance they try to draft down that path if they're going to stick with the style that they showed us several patches ago. Genji, of course, was taken by them oftentimes when available, but he will be first picked here. The first time we'll see him go through the draft with the Tempest ban on Illidan.
So Uther is open for Tempest side. Right now the top two, Uther and Auriel, are the top two supports. And depending on which supports they take, it seems like the teamwork is made around their supports right now. That's why the supports pick are going on top, even banned in this meta. Tempest has been showing some Auriel, lots of Uthers though. And L5, they're really trying to counter because Tempest has already shown pretty good games with Genji, so they took it from the very first pick. This worries me a little bit that Tempest is spending this much time to actually think about the first two.
Yeah, and also the Illidan ban feels a little bit odd.
Okay, Uther and Nubarak just as...
So this draft just feels like there's no theme for either team. It's a S-tier heroes grab them up. It's a gotcha game, seeing which ones they can pull out here. The better end of the deal for this is definitely on Tempest side because Nubarak and Uther synergize with almost everything, whereas Genji needs a lot more protection and won't do as well with a Malfurion pick as healer, for example. So maybe we see the Ariel come out with some other sort of extra healing coming in. Or it's just Ariel, standard tank, and then we see Cho'Gall coming. And it's like, I gotcha! That would have been how that's how you draft it. You just keep Wolf guessing something like, Cho'Gall, of course, with Ariel. I'm like, oh yeah, I learned about that in the last best of 5.
If not, the standard Korea before today would be Rehgar going around the camps with giving heals, ancestral healing whenever one's low, especially Genji on the front line.
Oh, it's the Ariel coming in.
Oh.
Cho'Gall confirmed! Soft confirm!
Well, the Haka, of course, will give the top lane pressure a lot harder. Let's see if Tempest actually... We saw a very smart black play with Illidan and Ariel pushing hard on the top lane against the Haka, really pressuring hard, limiting the power source that the Haka has, as his Heroic has the global, also brush talk into the team fights every time, which really limited his team fight ability because he was so far back pushed.
Well, the ban here, if you're going to ban Cho'Gall, G-Clef, do you ban Cho or do you ban Gall? Which one do you ban?
Are you serious?
You ban Gall!
Well, they have been in OGN. They watched all the games with Blossom and MVP Black. Maybe that's something in there. That's something that's in their head right now. I'm pretty sure there are a lot others like DPS, like maybe even Li Ming, Vala, Ariel.
The thing is, with the Ariel pick here, if you go Vala, you don't. It's not the solo protection Vala. They could go Vala Task, but that makes Dahaka solo tank, so that's really weak. So. I do have to consider the possibility of Cho'Gall here.
Especially today.
You really do. I mean, if you look at what's available and how teams traditionally draft with Vala and Ariel, especially L5, if you look back at how they played in the midseason brawl, this would have been a Ariel Dahaka with not a Genji first pick, right? It would have been something different. Double support maybe first pick Tassadar, but in this draft, you really have to pull your thinking emojis out because this is not a clear pick in any way what they're bringing to the table. And it's scary for Tempest right now because it's hard to predict what is going to come out. They do the safe Stitches ban here. It's the potential detainment strikes with the hook and Dahaka's tongue grabs. It's a scary pick, very top-tier warrior. And they already have a Nubarak, so now when they see the Arthas ban, they're like, okay, I'm still not sure where you're going with this one. And unfortunately, we're only going to have that one counter pick at the end. But they'll have at least a little bit of time to figure out what is coming their way.
The standard will be maybe even a Taster Greymane coming in and just one DPS at the very end to counter as a counter pick against L5. That will give sustain and burst damage along with a Nubarak that will also complete the dive comp.
Well, a lot of thought going into this one. Tempest feels a little bit head scratchy for this draft, taking a lot of time for each and every pick. Find out what they end up locking in for DPS. Artanis Greymane.
H82 is back.
It's time. H82, one of the best Artanises in Korea. We saw him carry with it on Raven on this map. He really likes the Artanis map. Very strong for soul laning and good for picks when you're looking to deny the Dragon Knight when he gets Warp Sickness and upgrades his Prism so he can get the double swaps. The double swaps were real. You go back and watch his games on this map. So what's it going to be here for L5? We see some sort of Vala Tassadar with the solo tank Dahaka. Is it going to be just a more normal Muradin or Johanna coming in with the secondary support of some other kind? I mean, this is kind of weird. If you bring in a Vala here with only the Ariel, it's not bad in the format. It can work. We've seen it before. We've even seen the Diva Ariel on Battlefield of Eternity, but A little bit worried here for L5. Lunara will be the second DPS here, and Tyrael. So extra protection here for Tyrael coming onto the Genji. Lunara will give a decent amount of hope for the healing, but it's not a perfect composition by any means.
I think it's also because the support choke could have come later on. They picked Ariel from the beginning. And Lunara and also Tyrael taking away from the dive comp. Artanis and Nubarak Greymane with Tyrael would be perfect for Tempest, and I think that's very good for themselves at the same time. So completing the draft, it's not the most common thing we saw from L5, but with this draft, with the new roster, I think the role fits in perfectly with their comfort picks right now.
So, I mean, I like the way that Tempest is approaching the draft better, though. Like, Chromie comes in as the last pick, can be very difficult to avoid the combos if you time it right when the Aegis expires. We've seen Chromie used many times against Ariel. Also, if you catch an unsuspecting Lunara on her little pony trot legs, then can blow her up in an instant. So I like the draft a lot better for Tempest, to be honest with you. I feel like it doesn't pigeonhole itself. It was very reactionary, the way they went about it. They've got two S-tier heroes in, of course, the Uther and the Anubarak. Artanis doesn't seem like a strong pick in general, but with H82 on the hero, it looks a lot stronger. Guys, we are going into game number 1 now between L5 and Tempest, which should be the marquee matchup of the evening. L5 Hooligan on Tyrael, SC on Genji, Junga on Dahaka, STE on Lunara, Swoi on Ariel. Can't believe I didn't know STE was guinea pig. Oh my god.
In red, Tempest hide on Luther, Honkono on Greymane, Lockdown on Chromie, Sign on Anubarak, and H82 on his famous Artanis.
It's pretty famous. Very well known. So let's see how this one ends up planning out here as we see the first swap already. Okay.
Perfect combo.
Give me more, give me more. I'm not satisfied. I want to see 8 of those. 1 out of 8. That's the Wolf quest. Upon completion, Wolf will go, oh, really loud. That's what the description is.
Hope it doesn't complete. I want to save my ears for later. Oh, that's the power of Artanis, and H82 is known for his Artanis pick in Korea, so there we go.
Especially on this map in Battlefield of Eternity. Raven had some unusual drafts back then. We'd seen H82 play the Valera. We've seen a little bit of everything, right? So I think that when you look at what this draft is designed to do, it's very dive heavy, it's very DPS heavy. Look at the build here already, even for Greymane, not going into Cocktail, but actually building into what Honkono has done all season long. Go into the Worgen form, builds the Wolf Heart, the Eyes in the Dark, end up going into the Wizened Duelist at 7, and you want to snowball the game, you want to win it hard. And that's the idea behind this draft. And the reason why I like Tempest draft better is because it feels like it really has a theme. You've got heavy dive, you've got the CCs to lock down targets for Greymane's Cocktails and his dive in with Go for the Throat. You've got Chromie to hit those targets that get caught. You have the protection. And yet again, another swap here. This time a little bit baited, though.
A little baited and enough because you will have that shield available, and also it's towards his side, so not much. But the thing is, Swoi on Ariel does not have cleanse. The Chromie is the counter pick, as we saw lots of times in Europe and really in Korea right now too. He will be very weak, very vulnerable against the Chromie pick, of course, when Nubarak dives in at the same time. I think Tyrael has to pop the Sanctification to save Lunara every single time, or even Ariel too.
3 out of 8 swaps, by the way. Yeah, I think the draft of L5 feels like it was very much on the fly, very flexible, and the first pick, Ariel, didn't really do them any favors. Or sorry, the Genji into the Ariel didn't do them any favors because it just left them very much in a position where they don't have a hero that generates a great amount of hope. Then they had to draft Lunara into H82's Artanis and the Anubarak when you've got Honkono's hyper-aggressive Greymane to deal with on top of all of that. So I think that it's a solid draft if you don't look at Tempest draft and you just ignore that. When you make the comparison, though, directly, this becomes a little bit more awkward. So 4 for 8. Will this one be the pick? The follow-up stuns are real. Honkono's here for the damage. Looks like that will be the kill for sure. Burrow here buys a little bit of time, but it's fine to secure the kill.
Yep. Jungha, it won't be a game without Jungha overstepping the line, of course. But Sway actually going for that sweep build. I guess they lacked in wave clear a little bit because Genji and Lunara does not really give good wave clear. And they do have some wave clear with the Haka and Tyrael, but it seemed like they lacked a little bit, so it's going for that sweep field instead. Let's see if that costs him big later on, though.
Well, this is going to be a pretty ill-advised attack by Hooligan. Hooligan, of course, was... Obviously, he's been around in the hero scene for a long time. I know a lot of people tune in tonight because they want to watch L5 Tempest, and they're like, who's Hooligan? I don't know who this guy is, but he's always been like a pretty mid-tier level tank, right? The fact that he was chosen for L5 must mean something. It must mean that L5 has looked at some of his games on different teams and in scrims and in tests and said, okay, this is the guy we want. Hold that thought as HA2 gets caught here. Another 6 swap to try to get away. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. Does get his shield up one more time, but they can't turn this fight. But to go back to that original thought, okay, never mind. Here comes Hyde. We're going to continue to team play this. Oh my coach, you got play it.
Yes, he will Swift Strike and just barely get away. And it's a full team fight now without Chromie. There's no poke, but Chromie will also try to come up.
Down's looking for the channel here. They're going to get it.
They're going to buy time. Yeah, Lockdown's going to get it.
So anyways, going back to just finishing off my point, it's not shocking to me or even surprising in the slightest that SDE would be picked up by L5. It's a little bit more surprising that Hooligan would be the replacement for Noblesse. If you compare the two players, the difference, the skill gap, it's quite wide. So hoping that he lives up to whatever L5's decision-making was to end up picking him here to replace Noblesse, because a large gap to fill. Big shoes, as we've been saying all season long. So Greymane will get picked off here. There goes his Wizen Duelist stack. He only has one, if I remember correctly. Dragon Knight still wrecking a little bit of havoc here in the top lane as they get a slight lead in EXP from this.
Not sure what happened there, as we will never know. But this Dragon Knight has been pushing. Of course, it's the first one of 5 minutes. Not going to do too much, but did take down the walls on the top lane, so that's something.
Yeah,
for lockdown.
Exactly. A lot of people always question why the Dragon Knight goes top in Korea a lot of the time. It's only in the early game where you really want to commit to that. If you get the fort, it's a huge bonus, a huge boon for EXP. So you can sometimes get a slight lead in talents to get those big talent tier advantages when you go for the top fort. It's a lot easier to push. You're a lot safer there. You're away from the action. So you start in the mid lane, force your opponent to come over, react to that, then you go top and get that free EXP, which is going to give them 10 with the extra wall they got. It's not going to be the lane to end the game on, but definitely going to be a way to get ahead in EXP. As you can see, having the level 10 advantage now, they might even go for an invade here.
Yeah, it also forces a bigger rotation compared to bot. It's a little bit more further away from the middle lane, so that's exactly why they do it. And if you get to actually take down the fort, that actually pressures a lot more because your way back home is, of course, a lot longer, so it makes it more dangerous. There are lots of reasons behind it.
Yeah.
It's one of the most common things you see.
Well, Sanctification comes out here. Wasn't a really big question for us going into this map with the heroes that are with him, the Lunara and the Greymane, or sorry, not the Greymane, the Genji, and with 2 tanks that are very easily going to be able to intercept the Judgment coming in. Ooh. Judgment just wasn't really reasonable here.
But isolation on which target, though, seems to be very likely Greymane seems to be the target. And for Loop on Tyrael does have the escape to actually escape from the death. Nicely done by Hooligan. Yeah,
actually good escape there. That would have been very costly if he had died. Now actually a very big cost for Tempest, actually losing that very long cooldown. So we are just going to see HA2 sit in the top lane, get that soak while we see the main push for Tempest, those Siege Giants, to come out. So now they're going to try to push 4-man with these Siege Giants to get the pressure there to at least secure the bot shrine, as it will spawn in 3 seconds. So map control in favor of Tempest so far. And that's even with the global hero of Tahaka on the side of L5, just because that There was just a small window of opportunity there to grab the Dragon Knights, or sorry, the Siege Giants.
I guess isolation is for Uther to actually limit the cocoon ability, but hold on to that dodge. Jonga will grab onto Nubarak. Does that? I believe Synas does not have the dive, it seems like.
Oh, he's going to need to use Divine Shield here. That's going to be really annoying and unfortunate. This is not the team fight they were looking for. SDE, though, gets taken out here by the Purification Beam. SC does drop that deflect and will get away for the time being, but more stacks here for Honkano. There's another kill. One of the reasons why we see Chromie picked against the Oriole pick is because when you see the Aegis wear off, you know exactly where to drop those skill shots. It's something that you might struggle with if you play Chromie in Hero League, but if you're a professional gamer, as these guys are, you know the timing, you've practiced it so many times, you've encountered it hundreds of times, and you know so well, so crisp, exactly when to drop those skill shots. That was a dead hero either way. In fact, it's a bit surprising Aegis was even committed to there, but this one example of why you see the Chromie, it's not the main reason, but you have to keep these things in mind when Chromie is on the table.
And they couldn't really get a pick onto Nubarak, of course. If it was Greymane or Chromie, I think they could have got a kill 100%. But they were focusing down. They used a lot of the skill shots onto Nubarak, who at the end of the day actually lived throughout all that. I think that cost is really big on L5.
Well, Sign looks to try to finish off this forward. Unfortunately, not able to quite get it. Very, very low. It's going to go down with the next minion wave. Going to be worth more EXP later on too, but still would have been a nice catch for them to keep the EXP ahead. Going to be level 13 for L5 soon, but again, Tempest using their talent tier advantage to look for an invade here. They will get it. Swap here onto SC.
Onto Genji though, there's a follow-up stun, but not enough damage. Did not go for the double swap this time, but going for more damage onto the blade.
I lost track of my quest, man. We need to update the UI.
The Wolf UI?
Yeah. I should have written it down.
It's about 5 out of 8, so it's about time for you to scream later on.
I didn't make any pinging noises like the quest noise has when it happens, so.
That's the best sound. It's the most satisfying sound in Heroes of the Storm.
Especially when you play a hero where you just get it non-stop. Like you play Falstad, Season Marksman, you just like hear it the whole time.
And also like Honkano has been getting some stacks on his duel list. I'm pretty sure it's about 4 or 5-ish.
Well, it can't be 5 because there's only 4 takedowns, G-Clef, but you were close.
Oh. I thought they got a full team one.
I'm sorry, I just had to do it. I think he's got 2 or 3 currently, because he did die once. So yeah, it's got to be 3.
5-ish is 4. No.
Yeah, sure. Oh boy. Well, you saw the 5 logo on L5 and you were like, well, I'll just go with that one.
Thanks. Well, with that wave clear, of course, L5 has to catch up to level with Haka pushing on top. Glad they still have the fort on top though. That's one thing, but Tempest really making this dive comp work together as SC is temporal looped and cancelled by the Aegis.
Yeah, this is how you use Aegis against the temporal loop. SDE, though, has the beam on him here. Sanctification, well-timed, and this Dragon Blade could take away the stacks of Honkano. He gets a Divine Shield, but will he get out? I don't think so. Not enough heals here. Hyde is going to be the next to fall, and L5 are going to turn this fight around. Really good, not Aegis, Stasis here from Lockdown. He actually is in good position to look for the pick. Doesn't look for the pick onto SC. Oh, misses both shots there. And SC gets out.
Honkano almost lived because Swoi actually pushed him out of the dangerous positioning with his strike. That was close, but of course, with that perfect sanctification on Genji, the Dragon Blade swinging everywhere, doing tons of damage, that team fight almost went perfectly for L5. And if you get a pick, if you can dash into Chromie, you can't really do anything as a Chromie unless you get a perfect time trap onto Genji, or you can't really 1v1 Genji versus Chromie. There's no way that Chromie can win.
No. If maybe Genji could deflect and not just get protected, it would be even worse. Imagine just deflecting the Q back into her face. That'd be bad. Everyone's played Chromie versus Chromie a quick match. You know how much damage Chromie does to Chromie. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's insta-deleted off the map, so. Well, Temporal Loop onto Genji was not the perfect target, I think. Maybe onto Lunara or Ariel, of course, ended up using Aegis for the counter anyhow. So taking that out of the way seemed perfect, but L5 really knew that was the timing, but hold on to that thought there. It seems that's the escape. That's why Genji is so powerful. With the utility, the escape even with the Gorge onto Stitches, you can just escape from any kind of dangerous situation.
Yeah, if you try to kill a Genji in Overwatch, good luck. Genji on your team, though, he's got 12 deaths, right? 1.8. But, I mean, the mobility obviously makes the target selection for Tempest very important, and SC's been the one they picked every time. Perhaps they're just used to grabbing the more squishy heroes that SC normally plays. Aegis forced out here. They have Bowden even cooldown, so it's not the worst thing in the world here. She had advantage to Ariel in this case. Sign gets caught here. The Holy Ground keeps him trapped, and Jungha grabs him there for the kill. Nice Holy Ground. Another one here to look for the trap. HA2 swaps, and it might actually cost him his life. They do get the kill onto SC, however. Huge burst coming in, no protection. This time the Divine Shield is used onto H82, and Tempest will be able to disengage. This is such a close game, actually. 5-5 now. Only 1 fort down, or 2, actually. My bad. It's okay, both of us are going to make counting mistakes this game.
It's alright, but that Holy Ground by Hooligan just there, just right now, really body blocking Sign out of the safety zone. Really worked out perfectly. Hooligan really, that almost looked like Noblesse right there. Just by that Holy Ground, bought the kill for them. Isolation not really used perfectly because they were lacking in distance, but you see the temporal loop used every single time to bring out that Aegis to limit that from happening. And Tempest, right after the Crystal Aegis is popped, they dive in, and they know the exact timing. Last team fight, it was not too perfect with Sign diving in too heavily, and the rest of the team, because of the Holy Ground, in fact, could not really focus onto the same target. But later team fights, I think they will bring out the full potential of the dive comp.
Speaking of full potential, I feel like we haven't really seen the full potential of Honkono this game. He's died, so lost his stacks. Had he been a little bit better protected, if he lived that time when he got the Divine Shield a little bit late, had that not occurred, I feel like he'd be a lot stronger than he currently is. So, you know, we talk about risky plays with Greymane, and only Honkono in HGC, really, I mean, not even just in Korea, like worldwide, only Honkono is the one who's building this old ancient style from 2016 summer on Greymane, and he's done it every time. It hasn't worked every time, but see if it works here this time. They're going to get the pick onto Teriel, actually. No Aegis nearby to save him. A good rotation by Tempest because everyone on L5 was trying to grab the temples. Jungha was pushing top, but nice rotation there.
Seems like Jungha is looking for the escape cocoon to actually block the Roshtok from going away from the team fight.
Okay, I don't know about that. Purification coming out, but Jungha is going to try to escape here. The rotations are coming up.
There's a swap. Another stack for you, Wolf.
All right, what, 2 more now?
Yes, I think so.
There's probably been some swaps that I missed, but they weren't epic ones. Okay.
Well, those are the kind of picks they wanted. That's exactly why they picked Chromie.
And this is the late game. This is the stage where the death timers, when you get these picks, are perhaps more significant than getting the top 4, because as we were talking about earlier, top 4 is useful for EXP only. They got it Dahaka can push to try to get the keep wall, and then eventually, like late game, like we're talking China late game, we could see the keep be taken out. But mostly now, especially once 20 is reached, getting that fort doesn't matter. But the death timers, the long death timers here for L5 still cost them. Dahaka's still dead, then this may cost them a Dragon Knight. So they rotated up. They had that heavy push from Jungha, but unfortunately, you know, it's not going to work out in the end because he was picked. He didn't have he took isolation, so he didn't have that extra sustain to survive, and this will cost them a Dragon Knight. Daka respawns, but just in time to deal with a very heavily scaled 17-minute Dragon Knight that can march directly towards the bot keep.
That's exactly what they're doing. And L5 is almost at 20, I think, with the extra wave on top, with Dahaka soaking in. They will get 20 just in time, and they can actually force a team fight right now with 4v5 H82 on the Dragon Knight. They will even use Temporal Loop once again before the damage gets deflected.
Okay, let's see if they can look for the keep here. We are going to see the heavy engage here.
Comes on from the side, but no adaptation though.
No adaptation. Now the stun's coming in. Nubarok, pretty good hero, am I right? Nubarok main BTW, says Sign. He gets the knockups there. That's the follow-up kill. The positioning of the brush stock, too obvious. Tempest was able to read that like a book. That's going to be a keep. And 2 deaths now for Jungha. The death in the top lane, and this death here now for the Brushstock may cost them the game as a Dragon Knight charges in. Cost them a keep at minimum. Doesn't look like they'll be able to end with this, though. They don't have the right angle. HGC limits a lot of the shield. But level 20 is up for L5. This is a very risky proposition for Tempest, but they want this. The Divine Shield going on to Honkono here is doing a ton of extra damage. He has those Wisdom Duelist stacks. They're going to commit to the core. HGC is untouched, and it looks like they will be able to win the game off of this. That is going to be it. Sanctification, not good enough. GG. Tempest with the finishing blows.
That one cocoon to trap Tyrael, that Sign knew that Tyrael was coming in to save Dehaka because he does not have adaptation. Perfect cocoon at the right timing, and really Hooligan was trapped in cocoon and Jungha was lost. Where's my sanctification? And Tempest making the right call with the Dragon Knight, pushing all the way into the core. It takes game number 1. I'd say well done. The teamwork and coordination, of course, did go. It seemed like it's a lot better for Tempest right now. The L5, we saw some of the things like they could do, but it's just not there completed right now.
I'm surprised we don't see the adaptation. The isolation was a weird pick there for Jungha, who ended up having 2 deaths there at the end that cost them the game. The first death, of course, was Tyrael. When Tyrael was removed there, Jungha didn't have that extra protection and the smite for the speed boost to escape, so he got picked off there too. Isolation didn't really help him there. And then he died again at the Brushstock where they just focused him down. So good focusing, good coordination, as you said, from Tempest. And the draft, I think, for Tempest was just better. Like, Lunara didn't look like the hero that I wanted to be like, oh, okay, this is a sick Lunara pick. They teched it in, it was amazing. Because when you do see the Lunara picks in Korea, because it's quite rare, it's usually for really specific reasons. A Battlefield of Eternity, or it's an anti-Genji hero, and it works out decently. But the synergy was not there with Lunara. Didn't look to be a strong pick. It was a desperation pick because they drafted Ariel so early. They didn't have Divine Shield for the Genji either. We saw that one good sanctification. That was the one really good team fight for L5. But everything else, the coordination was better for Tempest. I personally feel they had the much better draft. And L5's going to have to step it up because normally we saw one-sided games in these series. L5 dominated Tempest both times they played against them in the last season. Well, this time looks like a totally different story.
It's a totally different